All right, Rob Allen, once again for On the Bucket. Got a really neat guest and a unique situation. I've never actually had a conversation with Patrick Kiernan from Johnson Controls, and that'll be a new thing for me, but I think it'll make it pretty interesting for everybody. So I'll be learning about Patrick just as you guys are. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Patrick. Maybe give just a quick intro, who you are, what you do, what your role is at Johnson Controls.
Sure. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate the invitation. So my name is Patrick Kiernan. I am part of our sales team at Johnson Controls. So I lead our BMS sales, and BMS is our fire detection, access control video solution, and controls sales team across the Americas.
Very cool. I did. I think we briefly fist bumped or shook hands or something when we were in Dominican at the last Johnson show. But was impressed to see you just kind of come in and you seem to own every room that you walk into, which is fun to watch. And the folks that I know that know you have always said very good things and really have enjoyed working for you. So you don't always get that feedback sometimes from people. So there you go. I just wanted to tell you what people are saying. It's all good things.
We work with some great people, so thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, the premise of the show, and as you viewers know, the premise of the show is I just want to interview industry thought leaders, folks that from all different walks of life that somehow found their way into our awesome industry. And I just want to have people share their story, so we get a little bit more personal understanding of who people are. So that's the premise, Patrick. And so, why don't you just start telling us a little bit about where you were born and what kind of life was like growing up?
Sure. So I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, grew up on the South Shore, so about 15 miles south of Boston. I am, I guess, somewhat of a middle child, but not a middle child. So I'm one of five. My older brother and sisters are triplets. So that's why I'm not really a middle child, but I'm child number 4 in order, and had a great upbringing in Hingham, which is where I grew up. And ultimately, after graduating from Hingham High School, moved on to the United States Military Academy, spent some time in the United States Army following graduation there, bounced around a couple different places, and then ended up at what was Tyco, now Johnson Controls, about 15 years ago. So that's the very quick version of how I got here.
Wow. Well, let's pick a little bit of this apart a little bit. So, if you watch the movies, Boston comes up all the time, right? And so I'm thinking Affleck and Damon and all those guys, and then you hear the word Southie. I don't know what that necessarily means. Are you a Southie guy, not a Southie guy? Educate us. What's that mean?
So there's a massive difference between, well, at least when I was growing up, Southie and the South Shore. And anybody that was a true Southie person would not take kindly to anybody from the South Shore claiming to be from Southie. So I need to be really, really clear. The South Shore is where I grew up, not Southie. I think if you were to look at Southie of today is full of a lot of people that did grow up on the South Shore. So the Southie of The Departed and Black Mass and all those different movies or books that were out there certainly has changed quite a bit, as has all of Boston. But no, I grew up about 15 miles south of Boston, and that would be south of South Boston as well.
All right. South of South Boston, not Southie, on the shore.
Correct.
We got it. Crystal clear. Awesome. And so triplets, and they're older than you or younger? What'd you say?
Yeah, no, they're older. So I've got an older brother and 2 sisters, and then I have a younger brother. But the triplets is a boy and 2 girls.
Wow. So that was I don't know. At some point, I have a very good friend who's a twin. They're mirror twins, and their parents didn't know that they were having twins, and so they have the first one, and out comes Mike, and my buddy Chris comes a little later. They're like, "Holy crap! Here's Chris." Did you happen to know if your parents knew they were having triplets, or how did?
So they did know they were having triplets, but a funny story in that regard. My mother will tell the story that she called my dad at work and said, originally they thought they were having twins. And she said, "Honey, I've got some news. We're not having twins." And I think he said something along the lines of,
Thank you.
Great. Thinking he was having twins, and she had to then break the news to say we're actually having triplets. So I'm not exactly sure what his response was then, but they did know they were having triplets at some point in time. But there was a period there where they thought they were twins, and I'm not sure how Dad handled that situation once he heard. But that's the famous story, is my mother making the phone call to let him know it wasn't 2, but it was 3.
That's wild. So, I mean, was it for anybody hearing the story? It's probably like, wow, triplets, and then they had 2 more. There's 5 kids. Like it sounds unique, but a lot of times, if you're living it, it's not such a big thing. And maybe that's the case for you, or was it? Like, to me, it's just interesting. I just maybe we move on. Maybe we talk more about it. I don't know.
No, so living it wasn't all that interesting. It was just that's what your family is. But it was
Yeah,
always, oh, are you one of the triplets? No, I'm not. Oh, are you the youngest? No, I'm not. So that was generally what I'd get. No, I'm just kind of that one in the middle. But
yeah,
no, I think it's like any family. You have three siblings; they just happen to be the same age, and then you have another sibling. So I
yeah,
unique in
yeah,
some regards, but not crazy in terms of altering an upbringing by any way, shape, or form.
yeah. It's wild. I have long story I won't dive into, but I have four half sisters, so none of us
Okay.
have the same two parents, and so. But I didn't even know that was a thing until I was in middle school, and someone says, "Oh, is that your half sister?" I'm like, I don't know what that means, So it's to other people it's interesting, but for us it was just my sister, right? Yeah. So kind of funny, but um, so military academy was. Did you have a parent that was in the military? Did you follow in that footsteps, or was that something that you just sort of did on your own?
No, I did not. So it was something that I did on my own. Had grandparents or grandfather, excuse me, that served and really felt compelled to give back and really honor what it means to be an American and really give appreciation for those generations that came before us that said, hey, this is something that means a lot to us, and we're going to make sure that this is something that we'll defend.
Yeah, wow, love that. Got chills from that. So, what was life like? Hobbies, sports, growing up? Did you play football? Did you play sports? What'd you do?
I played football. So football and lacrosse were my two primary sports that I played. I was a stronger lacrosse player than a football player, but I would say in both cases, the best way to describe my game would be gritty, not pretty. And I think that's something that probably has continued out through life, where I'm not sure I do a whole lot of things that are overly pretty, but gritty gets us through a lot of things.
I like it. I like it. So, did you stay in Boston for um, until the military academy? Did you move around a little bit? What was that?
No, so no, never moved around. Grew up in actually, my mother's still lived. My father's since deceased, but my mother's still living in the house that we grew up in. So not much has changed there. I live now about an hour, 10 hour, 50 minutes west of Boston. Circuitous route, but following the military academy, went to Oklahoma, Oklahoma to Georgia, Georgia to Northern Virginia, back to Massachusetts. So I am in Massachusetts now, but bounced around for a few years there.
So, let's get this out of the way. I'm from Atlanta. Sports allegiance. I'm going to take it. I'm not going to let you have it. 28-3. We all know the story. Um, but so you're a Patriot, Celtic, all the things, right? I just assumed.
28-3 was an interesting evening,
Oh.
from the lows to the highs, and I'm sure others from the highs to the lows. But yes, I am a Boston sports fan.
So, well, an interesting question I always ask, and it always gets some good thoughts. So, what was your first car?
First car. I believe it was a 1980 Oldsmobile station. No, it was a Buick station wagon, and it had that built-in cell phone that was permanently affixed to not the center console, but right below, and it had the rear-facing seats as well. So I believe that's what it was, with the wooden panels all around the side as well.
Wow. And so, you were the coolest kid in school, right? With that thing.
Something like
That's
that.
cool. So the Woody one, right? The station wagon with the wood paneling, that thing.
Yes.
You could probably pack some people in that car. I bet you drove a lot of people around
Yeah.
in high school. So what kind of student were you? Were you a studious person, great grades? Were you a little bit of a partier, or where did you land on stuff?
So I was studious. I did well, but I also worked hard. Only study. Certainly found some time to have some fun as well along the side.
Very cool, very cool. So then, tell me a little bit about the military academy. What was that like? Because most of us probably can't relate to that. Give us a little insight.
It was interesting, right? I think it's one of those places that I think, when you're in the middle of it and while you're there, you may not have the same appreciation for the experience that you do afterwards. And sometimes places are a great place to be from, but not necessarily in. And maybe that's the best way to describe it. I think it's something that I would look back and say incredibly appreciative of those years and have fantastic relationships and would not trade the experience for anything. Was it always the easiest? No, certainly not. But I think at the end of the day, something that I will forever be grateful for, that I had the opportunity to attend and had the opportunity to learn and develop as an individual during those 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have kids, and do you think that you will recommend them to do that, or do you think, where do you land there?
So I do. I have four children. So my oldest son is a sophomore in college. My next son is a senior in high school. The next one is a junior in high school, and then I have a daughter who is in eighth grade. Ironically enough, my son, who is a senior, is in the process of applying to several of the service academies. I don't know that he will apply to West Point based off of the list that he's given me thus far, but he's in the middle of it and taking care of things like the physical and working through his nominations that he needs to. So it's an interesting process to have gone through it myself, and then an interesting process as a parent to see someone else going through that process. So time will tell where he ultimately lands, but right now that is his hope, is that that's something that could come to fruition for him.
Yeah, it's got to be neat for you, right? I mean, if you had some good experience with it, and you've got a child that wants to follow in those footsteps, that's got to be a proud moment.
It's fun, right? But the key is, and we were just in the car yesterday and had the conversation to make sure, hey, this is something you want to do for you, not for
Yeah,
anybody else. And you
yeah,
want to do it for the right reasons, not because you think it's the right thing to do. And he was very quick to say, no, I want to do it for me. And it is something that I want to do for what he deemed to be the right reasons.
that's great. That's got to be so neat. So did you serve after? I think that's a requirement, right? So you have to serve after. How long did you serve,
So I
and
actually
where?
have a unique, yeah. So my situation is a little bit unique in that regard too. So you owe 5 years. I only ended up doing a little over two. So I've had, I guess it's five reconstructive shoulder surgeries, and on the last one, the Army effectively said you can sit here and ride a desk for the next 3 years, or you can get out, but you're not going to do anything other than ride a desk. So I said no. I think it was time to move on. And ironically enough, you could argue I've been sitting behind a desk ever since. So but but no, so
Yeah.
I only ended up doing about 2 years, which was also an interesting time in that you look at so many of my peers and friends who were deploying in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom or Enduring Freedom, and it's a little odd that that's not an experience that I had. I would argue there are probably very few of my classmates or folks that graduated in that proximity that do not have that experience. So it is a
Mhm.
little different, a little unique in that it's just something you're not able to speak to that others have had the opportunity to do and the privilege to do.
Yeah. So is there anything that the military taught you that did you change your way of life? Clearly, you probably did, but what kind of core foundation stuff do you still carry with you today? Like, is it routine? Is it perspective? What's something that you carry with you today?
Probably a few different things. So the biggest one is being calm in chaos. There's a lot of things moving at once, and just being calm and understanding. All right, let's get to what really matters and work through the amount of noise that's there. That would be one. One of the others learned early that, especially for a lieutenant, it's best to be seen but not heard. And so jump in, make sure that you're working alongside those that you aspire to lead, and that they view you as that, and that's someone that is doing the work and not simply talking or asking someone to do something that they're not willing to do themselves.
Yeah. So you embody that. I'll never ask you to do something that I haven't done myself or willing to do.
And listen, right? I think that the way I think about it now is you got 2 ears, one mouth, use them in that ratio, and you're fine. That's really a big piece that I've really worked to listen first before jumping right to a conclusion.
Something my stepdad always told me. You got 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. That sticks with me, right? And so that's a principle I have for people that work for me. Our creed is feedback by and good purpose, right? And so we got a lot of people working for us, and we can't know what their day to day is like. And the only way that we can make collectively everything better is that people have got to be able to provide feedback. And so we have a lot of different mechanisms, but I have found that listening, using those 2 ears instead of that one mouth, listening first is a critical part of what you do to be a great leader. How about you're a runner? I think we talked about that a little bit at the show. You running daily, pretty much.
I don't know that I should call myself a runner. I would say I run. I don't know if that qualifies me to be a runner, but yeah, I do run. So I probably run 3 to 4 days a week typically.
Very good. I uh I like to try to run, but I'm not embarrassed to admit and say anymore that I've really started to enjoy walking, and found that it's good meditative type thing, and sometimes it's walking silent, sometimes it's walking with a podcast, sometimes it's with music, just kind of however it feels. But this morning I went out and everything was bright blue, little cloudy, kind of making those violet clouds and whatever, and I got just far enough away from the house where it started sprinkling. I looked up, there's no clouds, and the next thing I know, it's torrential downpour. And I'd already called the coffee in to the coffee shop, and so I'm walking in there, socking wet, doing whatever. But even that was still kind of fun. It seemed to be, to me, it felt like that was staying active was something that was important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I also like to eat, so I think if I didn't run, that would probably be an issue. So that's part of why I like to get out there. But it's also great to run in a group, to get to know people, explore new places. So I travel quite frequently with my job, and great opportunity to understand the city a little bit better. And I probably stop and look at construction cranes and try to figure out what's going on a little bit too much. But that's a great way to understand your environment when you're in somewhere new.
Yeah, that's great. All right, well, let's jump into, you talked about job and career and what you do, traveling a lot. You ended up at, I guess, from out of the military. Did you go right to Tyco? Any place else in
No, so
between, or?
Nope. So I went to work for a consulting firm by the name of Booz Allen Hamilton, and did consulting. It was more military based consulting and projects. Worked then for what was Cooper Industries, that is now Eaton. Eaton acquired Cooper Industries, and then moved into Tyco back in 2010.
Nice. And Tyco Security, is that right?
So I had moved into the fire detection business. So the name of the business technically was Simplex Grinnell, which was our branch business that was providing support for fire detection, a fire sprinkler, and fire suppression.
Right. And so, forgive me if you said it, but what was kind of your role, your back, like what was your trade? What did you learn to do? What, engineer, more sales? What was it?
No, so I actually joined the organization in our strategic sourcing division. So it was a new initiative that the Simplex Grinnell business was standing up, and really saw pretty quickly that, and part of the reason I'd taken it was to have more of an operational basis. I had an operations basis previously, and let's really understand the business, and really always wanted to get into more of a commercial facing role, but thought the best way to do that would be to know what I'm talking about, and then move more into a sales role. So that's more or less what happened. So I moved into following the strategic sourcing, moved into a branch P&L role where I led our business in Connecticut and Western Massachusetts, and then moved into a pure commercial role in the fire detection business, followed by I've been in the controls business now, and now we call it BMS, which is fire detection controls and access control video, for the past bit of time.
So when the Johnson Tyco merger acquisition, however that happened, did you stay with the Tyco side? Did you move to the Johnson side? How'd you end up where you are now? Kind of is what I'm trying to get at.
So I spent probably about 10 months working on the integration when Johnson Controls acquired Tyco, and moved. At that point in time, I think the best way to think of it is we had our branch business, then we had our products businesses. And so I went from our branch business to our products business following that integration work. So that would have been 2017, I believe it was, where I made that jump. And it really was based off some of the experiences that I gained working through the integration and learning more about the Johnson Controls business, and helping to bring together the Johnson Controls branch business and the Tyco branch business, which was either the security business or the fire business at that time.
So very, very heavily involved at the branch with controls, Metasys, sort of. I guess it sounds like that's maybe where you started to cut your teeth in building automation controls. Was that the branch doing Metasys?
No, so really it was more on the product side. So when I made the jump from branch to product, it was actually still in our fire detection business. So I moved from integrating service and solutions to actually selling the product to the branch or to our independent network of partners that then sell those brands. So the brands that we have in the fire detection world, the two big ones that we know here would be Simplex, which would be the larger of the two, and then AutoCall, which is a new brand that we launched back in 2017, 2018.
Okay. Very cool.
And then
So
controls
then,
automation, I learned later. So after I was in a global role for fire detection, I moved into the same role for controls. And that's really where I started to cut my teeth in the controls and BAS space.
got it. Okay. Okay. And then you came to, we'll call it our side, right? My side, the side that I'm on, or the cool side. Let's call it the cool side. So so what was that like? Is it just, the next challenge? Is there anything that you really think is kind of unique and that you think is fun about our side, or what? Give us some takeaways there.
So I'm sure you know the legendary Rick Van Buren, right? So as you say,
Yeah.
the cool side, when Rick and I would speak, he'd always say, Johnson, it's in the name of the company. We've been keeping people cool since. And I would always respond, well, you keep people cool, but we save lives.
There you
And so
go.
that was our running joke. And I think the reality of it is, as we've seen, controls also saves lives, especially as you look at some of the weather changes that we're seeing there. And I think the biggest thing, and people would always say, hey, what is different or what's the same between, say, the fire detection business and the controls business? And there were two primary things that I saw that were always the same. So the first one is that people truly love and care for what they do. They are so incredibly proud of the industry and proud of what the industry means and what it stands for. And then the second part would be that we have really strong entrenched brands that people are proud to be a part of, and that they
Hmm.
care so much about what it means to be a steward of those brands and what it means to reflect and represent those brands, but also the industry, and helping to expand the industry and starting to bring new people into the industry. It's a role that people take really, really seriously. So that's probably the first thing I saw is, yes, it's doing something different. It's selling something different. However, the people are incredibly similar, and the passion and pride that they have for the industry and for what they do is absolutely the same. From a different standpoint, and it's probably somewhat natural to think this would be the difference. It's just learning what controls does, right? So
Hmm.
controls, while it's operating a building low voltage, similar to a fire detection system, they're just wildly different. And the approach and the go to market, and what does it mean to have something that is very code driven from a fire standpoint to non-code driven and really owner preference driven. That's probably the biggest difference in just learning what that looks like. Sure, there are different go to markets and things like that that I needed to learn, but it really was
Yeah.
the difference between telling someone they have to have something and someone choosing to have something, and what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of stole my thunder. I was going to say it's got to be the one side. It's like this is expected and no one appreciates it until it's not there. Right. And over here, it's, when you're talking about temperature control and other things, it's, people expect it. But us being able to control it in unique ways and, trying to get everyone wants to be safe and protected, but everyone has a different version of what's a comfortable temperature, right? And so it's kind of neat for us to. I'm oversimplifying things a little bit, but it's neat for what we have to try to do to try to create things where we can have the person that would love it to be 75 degrees in the office all the time, and then they sit next to the one that would love it to be 68, and so
Right.
trying to do all those different things. You've made some improvements already. What's next on the board? Are you trying to improve the culture? You're trying to improve the product? You're going to say all of that, but what are you kind of tapping into next? That's next on the improvement list.
I think the biggest piece is culture driven, right? So you mentioned it, and as we think about technology, and especially with children the same age, or children the age of my children, you'll hear a lot of them considering majors and saying, but AI is probably going to replace that. And I'm a strong believer that AI will never replace personal relationships. And so when we look at the relationships that we have with our partners, one of the big pieces we want to make sure is that is an area we invest heavily in. When we look at COVID and some of the results of behavioral changes and shifts that have happened as a result of COVID, I think that there's some interpersonal relationships and some of the time spent really developing what it means to be a partner. Some of those things became easy to do over Teams, and this is great, the technology that we're using here together. But at times, I think
Mhm.
people have sacrificed some of those personal connections of spending time physically together, and instead rely on Teams and other tools like that. So it really is about rebuilding some of the relationships that maybe had taken some different relationships that continued through some different mediums, and really making sure that those are personal relationships. Doing what we say is absolutely critical, and making sure that we continue to expand upon some of the improvements that we need to make. And look, there are improvements that we need to make with the product that we have. There's some improvements that we need to make with the back office experience and how easy it is to interact and work with us. And those are areas we're going to continue to focus on. But the cornerstone of it all has to be the relationship and the connections that we have, and the mutual trust and respect that we have for those partners who we're incredibly blessed that they've chosen to work with us, right? At the end of the day, you have a choice of who you want to partner with. And we are fortunate that you're choosing to partner with us. But we need to go and earn that every single day. And it's not just earning it with a great product, and it's not just earning it with a great experience. It's also making sure that when you need something, you can pick up that phone and call and know that you're going to get what you need. Or if there's a reason why it can't happen, you at least understand, and you don't feel like you're working with a monolithic machine. And that's really probably focus number one, is continued cultural focus on build the relationship, have that relationship, and continue to expand in that.
Yeah. But the saying proves true to me over and over and over. Culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And it's just, and I've witnessed it here at Stromquist and in other places that I've been in. Personal stuff is that when you develop that cohesion and you have a strong culture, it's just amazing what you can do. And then even with the best strategy, if you have bad culture, it doesn't matter. Quite a few new faces came into Johnson just recently, but a lot of those faces, they're saying the same thing as you. Like, Jonathan Lewis, just, he's a newish face, right? And he says the same thing that you just said. And then John Goss, who's been around for a zillion million years, he's saying the same thing. So I'm starting to feel. I never thought Johnson had bad culture in any way, shape, or form. I really didn't. I mean, Rick Van Buren was a great dude and all that, but it feels like there is definitely some little improvements happening, and a little bit more attention to. It just feels to me like you're probably just going, how do we make this easier? How do we make this happen? Let's quit thinking about it and overanalyzing it. Let's do this out and make this thing happen. And it's been fun, and it's been really fun, and I'm really excited about what's going to continue to happen with JCI.
Thanks. Right. Since you said it, simplicity can be a superpower, and that's what we need to continue to focus on, is simple, right? Nice and simple. We don't need to be overly complex to work with. We don't need our solutions to be overly complex. Let's make sure that we pay attention to some of the changes that we're seeing within the industry, and make sure that the user interfaces and the operability of our systems is one that allows people to say, hey, this is easy, as people are in some cases retiring, moving on, and we've got new generations coming through, that it doesn't require 10 or 5, 10, 15 years of experience before someone says, I really got this. I now can go operate and to your point earlier, and make sure that the occupants in a building are enjoying their 68 degrees versus 76 degrees.
Yeah. Let's pivot just for a quick second on products and solutions. And I know that sales is and you're looking at big picture perspective, but as an end user, as someone that's going to have your Johnson's product in their building, what are you saying to those people of why they want and why they should want to have Johnson's product in their building?
We've been around for 140 years, right? So when we look at it, we certainly have the history, experiences that we've learned from in that 140 years, but we also have the ability to go for the next 140 and 140 and 140 beyond that, really. So it's a product that is steeped in history and the positive things that come from that, but it's also one that's looking to the future. So when we look at it from a technology standpoint, we've been through the experiences that maybe some others have not. I think the other piece to it, if we look at how much we have from a backwards compatibility, so that's been a big part of what we offer, is ensuring that, yes, while it may not be ideal that you're operating a system that you put in 1986, in many regards, we still have the ability to operate that system from 1986. So I think about dropping my son off for freshman year last year, and it was a hot August day, and you see right there in his room that pneumatic thermostat with Johnson Controls logo on it, and wasn't not that long after he goes, Dad, what do you need to do to make this room cooler? Because it is hot as can be. I said, well, Part of that has to do with what schools choosing to use. But I think at the end of the day, you can still get that pneumatic thermostat, right? And so
Yeah.
it really is about the history and making sure that we support what we have that's out there, but ensuring that the product offering is one that will work in today's world, and continuing to invest in spending the engineering investment and resources in driving us to a future state that allows you to run a campus while you're using some of those old pneumatic thermostats and then the latest technology that's out there.
Right. So the takeaway for me is Johnson wants to ensure that customers not going to be in a situation where they're going to have to rip and replace something that's still working. You guys want to continue to innovate with new products, but you're always going to you're not going to innovate away from the ability to be able to have a customer still be able to have Johnson and not feel like they have to make a tough decision, probably a financial one, a lot more money to rip out something else and put some new stuff in.
Correct.
Very good. Can we pivot a little bit to leadership? What's it like to work? What's it like to work from you? What do you ask for people that report directly to you? What's your leadership style?
Direct. And I don't mean that in terms of everything's a blunt force weapon. I mean more direct in spending time with those individuals that are selling, spending time with our partners, so we can sit behind a computer, we can sit behind spreadsheets, and oh, that must be telling us this. And while it's important, I think, to understand the data and see what it tells us, it's more important to spend time on the front lines with people that are doing the job and that are receiving our product, and that, to your point, that end user that's running a campus, that's having to make that decision on, am I going to upgrade or not? Why? It's really critical that we spend that time to understand the decision making that goes on, but also to just see how people react and to overall build those personal relationships so that it's easy to understand where someone might be coming from. If we sit there and rely solely on the computer and say, hey, we're just going to talk strategy all the time, and we're never really going to get out there and understand the ground truth, we're going to
Mhm.
struggle. But if we understand where someone's coming from, why they might be thinking the way they're thinking, we understand the trends in that market, we understand a little bit more of what's going on, I think it helps us to make a better decision and a more well-rounded decision. The other piece it does is it empowers people to make decisions on their own, right? Too
Yeah.
often, people wait for a decision to be made as opposed to making the decision themselves then and there. Let's make sure people understand the strategy, and then let's make sure they feel empowered to go make the decision that they believe is in line with the strategy that we're seeing. And think about
Yeah.
yourself, right? If you had to reach out to someone to then reach out to somebody else, to reach out to somebody else to make that decision. No, you'd rather have that person make the decision there with their understanding of the facts and with their understanding of our overall strategy and ensuring that it supports that. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I think that allows us to do it by being in front of our teams and working alongside them, learning from them. So that's really the biggest ask to any leaders. To your question that worked directly for me is go spend time with your people. And
Yeah.
your people isn't just those that you support directly. Your people are customers, end users, contractors, distributors, engineers, sales team members. It really is a broad definition of people, but that's really what it is. Get out from behind your computer, get out from your desk, and spend the time really being immersed in our business, not observing it.
Yeah. That resonates with me. My takeaway, you want people that report into you to go out, seek seek to understand what's going on. Try to figure out what's happening, what isn't happening, what needs to happen, versus sitting back being reactive to what you're seeing. Actually go out and know, because I know that one of the things that frustrate me is when a senior leader or somebody that comes to me and says, hey, here's what I found out, what do you want me to do? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I don't want you to ask me what to do. I want you to do. To me, listening to how you talked about what your expectations are, feels to me like you want people to go out and do all their own research, find out all their own fact finding missions, so that they can feel good about saying, this is what we're going to do. And then if Patrick goes, hey, why did you do it that way? Well, I did it because of X, Y, and Z. Patrick seems like a reasonable person, probably says, I can see why you did it that way. Let's do it this way next time. Or, you know what, with that explanation, that sounds great. But you want to empower your people to make the decisions on their own that fit within the structure and the guidelines and guardrails that you set for them. So it sounds like you probably have some high expectations, but you also allow people to earn a lot of freedom and autonomy to go out and make some things without all this constant bureaucracy of approvals. Does that sort of summarize what you're saying a little bit? Or
That's a fair characterization of it. Yes. Let's make the decisions. I'll often say, so I coach lacrosse in my free time, and oftentimes we'll talk to a player about, hey, just make a decision, right? The only wrong decision is indecision. Make the decision and be decisive with it. Now, a little bit more nuanced in our environment, right? Let's make sure it's the safe decision, the ethical decision, and as long as it fits with the strategy, make the decision for sure.
yeah, yeah,
The other piece to that is we learn from experience. So
yeah,
that individual making that decision is going to learn, and they may learn themselves, say, hey, maybe I should have done it this way in the future, but they wouldn't have had that learning if they waited to ask for approval and had somebody else make a decision. There's also an ownership level of when someone's making a decision themselves, they're going, hey, I own this. Good or bad, I own it, whatever
yeah,
that outcome may be. And that really is the piece that we're really working to continue to build, is a true ownership culture of making
yeah,
sure that you'll make the decision that you make. You own the decision. We learn from the decision and we move on.
yeah. Yeah. So how do you treat failure from someone that works for you?
Look, we fail every day. I fail every day. And I think we need to accept that, embrace that, and learn from it. And it sounds cliche to say it, right? The only failure is the one you don't learn from. And so we're going to fail. We're going to have those conversations afterwards, say, hey, could I have done that differently? Could we have done that differently? Yes. And then what do we learn from it? And then build overall. The biggest piece to me is we honor our commitments, right? And
Yeah.
that's what, so when you say failure, where failure does not work is if we are unable or unwilling to honor the commitments that we've made to others. And that's where we'll have a different conversation. But in general, I expect us to fail. I expect us to learn from the failures, and we move on, and we don't harp on them and have it be something that somebody's dragging up and bringing out every 3 weeks. Well, remember this time when Rob failed? No, that's not something we're going to do. We're going to learn, and we're going to move on, and continue to grow.
Yeah. I'm gonna have you talk to my wife. She likes to remind me when yeah, I'm just teasing. But no, that's great. It sounds like a run till tackled, but there's some things that we're just, I want you to run till tackle, but there's just some things we're just not going to fail at. And those are the things that are, that you don't have to fail at. If you said you're going to do something, do it. Right.
Right.
That's an easy thing. Really cool. This has been fun, but there's got to be something that I didn't ask that you want to talk about, or something that you want to share with the millions of people watching this show, right?
Your numbers are huge. The millions. No. I think it's been a great experience, right? To hear a little bit of your perspective as well. So I appreciate the opportunity, and it's been nice to have a change of pace, right? And so often we may be going from one thing to the next thing, and I think to be able to take this time to reflect and think about how we got different places was a really nice time. So I appreciate that time tremendously. So thank you for the
Yeah,
invitation to do this.
absolutely. So if we found ourselves in the same physical place at each other, maybe you come see Stromquist and I show you around and we talk business and we do whatever, but we wanna do something extra. Would we find ourselves on the golf course? Would I need to like match your running pace? Like, what would me and you do for fun?
Well, I think the first thing is I would probably be wearing a T-shirt that says 28-3. That would probably be the
God,
first thing.
you're
So,
not
so,
invited then.
so that might limit what you want to do. But my golf game is probably limited to that with AstroTurf and windmills. So I am not much of a golfer with two bad shoulders. So I would say it's whatever it is you would like to do that's not on a golf course is where we would find ourselves for sure. And I look forward to coming
Fair
down to
enough.
Atlanta to spend some time with you and the Stromquist team.
Yeah, we'd love that. Look, nothing but great things to say, and that's just not me blowing smoke. People that do know me know that I don't do that. I've been impressed learning and hearing about you from others that I know and trust, and it's all good things. And I'm excited for the future of Johnson. Glad that you're a part of it. Glad you're on the cool side now. Yeah. So thank you very very much for coming on the show. And I basically just made the, hey, Patrick, would you come on? Sure. Yep. When do you want me to do it? Blah, 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 blah. And this was kind of went exactly how I wanted to. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Look forward to seeing you in Atlanta, and then hopefully I'll see you in Mexico here at the partner event in November.
Absolutely. You'll
So
see me there.
excellent. Sounds good.
All
Thanks,
right.
Rob. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Take care.
Absolutely. Take
Have a
care.
great one. Bye.